Once upon a time in a small village called Amaka, there lived a woman named Ada. Ada was kind and hardworking, but she had a big problem. She had been married to her husband, Ease, for many years, but they had no children. Every day, Ada prayed to the gods to bless her with a child. One night, Ada had a strange dream. In the dream, a tall, shiny man appeared to her. He had a voice like thunder and eyes that sparkled like the stars. "Ada," the man said, "I have heard your prayers. You will have a child, but it will not be an ordinary child. Take care of this gift and do not tell anyone about your dream." When Ada woke up, she felt strange but hopeful. She told no one about the dream, not even her husband. A few months later, Ada realized she was pregnant. She was so happy that she danced and sang all day. The villagers came to celebrate with her. Everyone was excited because they knew how long Ada had waited for this moment. But as the months passed, Ada's joy turned to worry. Her pregnancy did not end after 9 months like others. 1 year passed, then 2 years. By the 3rd year, people in the village began to whisper. "Something is wrong," an old woman said. "No woman is pregnant for 3 years." Ada tried to ignore them, but deep down, she was scared. She wondered if the strange man in her dream had something to do with this. One stormy night, Ada felt sharp pains in her stomach. She cried out, and Ease ran to her side. The village midwife was called, and the women gathered outside the hut, waiting to hear the baby's cry. But when the baby came, there was silence. Instead of a baby, Ada gave birth to a fish. It was a shiny, silver fish with big, bright eyes. The women outside screamed when they saw it. "A curse! A curse!" they shouted. Some of them ran away. Ease stood frozen in shock. Ada held the fish close to her chest and cried. She remembered the words of the man in her dream. This was the gift she had been given. The news spread quickly. Everyone in the village avoided Ada and Ease. Some people said they had offended the gods, while others whispered that Ada was a witch. Despite the rejection, Ada loved the fish with all her heart. She named it Nkem, which means my own. She kept it in a big clay pot filled with water and fed it every day. Nkem was no ordinary fish. It could jump high out of the water and make strange sounds. When Ada looked into its eyes, she felt a deep connection. She knew this was no ordinary child. Before you continue watching, like this video and subscribe to our channel for support, and be ready for the part 2 of this video. Thanks. One day, a stranger came to the village. He was an old man with white hair and a long staff. He went straight to Ada and Ease's hut. "I have come to see the child," he said. Ada hesitated but finally showed him Nkem. The old man nodded slowly and said, "This child is special. You must protect it at all costs. Many will try to harm it, but it has a great destiny." Ada's heart swelled with pride. She knew she would do anything to keep her child safe. The village grew restless as the story of the fish child spread. Some villagers demanded that Ada and Ease leave Amaka. They said Nkem was bringing bad luck to their crops and livestock. "The gods are angry," the village chief declared. "You must get rid of the fish or leave this land." Ada refused. She stood before the chief and the villagers, her voice steady and strong. "Nkem is my child. I will not abandon my own blood." Ease supported her decision, though he worried about what would happen next. Together, they prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. One dark night, a group of villagers gathered outside Ada and Ease's hut. They carried torches and sticks, shouting, "Bring out the fish." Ada woke up to the noise and quickly hid Nkem in a small basket. She whispered to Ease, "We must leave now." Ease nodded, and they slipped out through the back door. The villagers broke into the hut but found nothing. Furious, they set the hut on fire. Ada and Ease watched from a distance, their hearts heavy. They knew they could never return to Amaka. With only a few belongings, Ada and Ease began their journey into the unknown. They traveled through forests and crossed rivers, always keeping Nkem safe. One evening, they met a group of travelers who shared food and stories with them. An old woman in the group noticed the basket and asked, "What do you carry so carefully?" Ada hesitated but finally said, "It is my child." The woman looked into Ada's eyes and said, "You are brave. Keep going, and you will find a place where your child will be accepted." After weeks of walking, Ada and Ease reached a quiet village called Umuobi. The villagers welcomed them warmly and did not ask too many questions. They allowed Ada and Ease to build a small hut near the river. For the first time in months, Ada felt at peace. Nkem seemed to thrive in the clear waters of the river. Every morning, Ada would sit by the water, watching her fish child swim and play. The villagers thought Nkem was just a pet, and Ada did not correct them. But peace did not last long. One day, a group of hunters from Amaka arrived in Umuobi. They had heard about the strange family living by the river and were determined to capture Nkem. The hunters set traps around the river, hoping to catch Nkem. Ada noticed the traps and grew anxious. She warned Ease, who suggested they move further into the forest. "We cannot keep running forever," Ada said, her voice trembling. "Nkem deserves to live freely." Ease nodded. "Then we must fight back." That night, Ada and Ease devised a plan. They carefully removed the hunters' traps and replaced them with decoys. When the hunters returned, they found their traps empty and their efforts wasted. Angry and frustrated, the hunters decided to confront Ada and Ease directly. But they were not prepared for what happened next. The hunters marched toward Ada and Ease's hut with anger burning in their eyes. Ada stood at the entrance, holding Nkem in her arms. The hunters stopped in their tracks, surprised by the calm determination in her stance. "Leave us alone," Ada said firmly. "We have done nothing to harm you." The leader of the hunters, a tall man named Obiora, stepped forward. "That fish is not natural," he said. "It's a bad omen. Hand it over, or we will take it by force." Ada's heart raced, but she did not waver. "This is my child," she said. "If you want to take him, you will have to go through me." Obiora hesitated. He had not expected such bravery. But before he could respond, a deep voice echoed through the clearing. "Enough." Everyone turned to see the old man with the white hair and long staff. He walked slowly toward the group, his eyes blazing with authority. "This child is protected," the old man said. "Anyone who tries to harm it will face the wrath of the gods." The hunters exchanged uneasy glances. Obiora clenched his fists but said nothing. Slowly, the group retreated, leaving Ada, Ease, and Nkem in peace. After the hunters left, the old man stayed with Ada and Ease. He introduced himself as Dyke, a wanderer who had seen many strange things in his travels. "Nkem is no ordinary being," Dyke said. "He has a purpose, and it is your duty to guide him until he is ready to fulfill it." Ada and Ease listened carefully as Dyke explained what they needed to do. He taught them how to protect Nkem from those who might want to harm him and how to help him grow stronger. For the first time, Ada felt hopeful about the future. With Dyke's guidance, she knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Dyke spent several days with Ada and Ease, teaching them about the special nature of Nkem. He explained that their child had a destiny tied to the water spirits, the guardians of the rivers and seas. Nkem must eventually return to the great river, Dyke said. There, his true power will awaken, and his purpose will be revealed. But the journey is dangerous, and you must prepare. Dyke handed Ease a leather pouch filled with herbs and powders. These will protect you from evil spirits and those who might harm you. Use them wisely. Ease nodded, determined to keep his family safe. Ada, though anxious about the journey, was grateful for Dyke's help. Together, they began gathering supplies and planning their route to the great river. The villagers of Umuobi, unaware of Nkem's true nature, watched as Ada and Ease prepared. Some offered help, bringing food and tools. Others whispered behind their backs, wondering why the family needed so much for what seemed like a simple trip. Ada and Ease said little, keeping their plans secret. "We will leave at dawn," Ease said one evening. "The less attention we draw, the better." That night, Ada sat by the river with Nkem in her lap. She stroked his shimmering scales, feeling the bond they shared. "Mama," Nkem said softly, "are we going to a safe place?" Ada smiled, though her heart was heavy. "Yes, my child. We are going somewhere where you can be free and happy." Nkem's bright eyes looked up at her. "I will protect you too, Mama. I promise." Ada held him close, drawing strength from his words. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready to face it with her family. As the days passed, something extraordinary happened. Nkem began to speak. It was during a quiet morning by the river. Ada was washing clothes when she heard a soft voice. "Mama." Ada turned quickly, her heart pounding. "Nkem, was that you?" The fish bobbed in the water, its bright eyes shining. "Yes, Mama. Thank you for protecting me." Tears filled Ada's eyes. She called Ease, who rushed to the riverbank, astonished to hear their child speak. "Nkem," Ease said, his voice trembling. How can you talk?" Nkem's voice was soft but clear. "I don't know, Papa. But I feel stronger every day. The water makes me feel alive." From that day, Nkem communicated more. He spoke of dreams he had of vast oceans and glowing underwater palaces. Ada and Ease listened with awe, realizing their child was indeed special. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Nkem shared a vision. "Mama, Papa," he began, "I see a great river surrounded by tall trees. There are creatures there, like me, but different. They are calling to me." Ada's heart tightened. "What do they say, my child?" Nkem's voice grew distant. "They say I must come to them. That I have a role to play in their world. But there is danger too." Ease placed a protective hand on Ada's shoulder. "We will face it together," he said firmly. That night, Ada and Ease stayed up late, discussing Nkem's vision. They knew the journey to the Great River was not just about finding a safe place. It was about helping Nkem fulfill his destiny. The next morning, they redoubled their preparations. Dyke, sensing their urgency, provided additional guidance. He drew a map on the ground, marking safe paths and warning of dangers. "The river is not just a destination," Dyke said. "It is a test. Stay strong, and trust in each other." With Dyke's words in their hearts, Ada and Ease felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would help Nkem find his place in the world. At the first light of dawn, Ada, Ease, and Nkem began their journey to the Great River. The morning air was crisp, and the forest around them was alive with the chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves. Ada carried Nkem carefully in a large clay pot filled with fresh water. Ease held a sack of food and supplies, his other hand gripping a sturdy staff Dyke had given him for protection. Remember, Dyke had said before they departed, "Stay together and trust in Nkem's instincts. He will guide you when the path seems unclear." The family walked in silence at first, their hearts heavy with a mix of fear and hope. The path Dyke had shown them was narrow and winding, leading deep into the forest. Though the way was quiet, Ada felt as if unseen eyes were watching them. "Mama, I feel something ahead," Nkem said softly from his pot. "It's not dangerous, but it's big." Ease nodded. "We'll stay alert. Let's move carefully." As they rounded a bend, they came face to face with an enormous tree that had fallen across their path. Its massive trunk was covered in moss, and its roots stretched like giant fingers into the underbrush. "We cannot go around it," Ada said, her voice tinged with worry. "Wait," Nkem whispered. "There's water nearby. I can feel it." Following Nkem's guidance, they discovered a small stream that flowed under the fallen tree. Ada and Ease carefully waded through the cool water, holding Nkem's pot steady. On the other side, they found the path once again and continued their journey. As the sun climbed higher, the forest grew denser. The trees seemed to close in around them, their branches forming a canopy that blocked much of the sunlight. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, and shadows danced across the forest floor. Suddenly, a group of small, glowing creatures appeared in their path. They were no taller than a child, with translucent wings and eyes that shimmered like gems. The creatures surrounded the family, chattering in a language Ada and Ease could not understand. "What are they?" Ease asked, gripping his staff tightly. "They're not enemies," Nkem said. "They're guardians of the forest. They want to test us." One of the creatures stepped forward, holding a glowing orb. It gestured for Ada to take it. Hesitant but trusting Nkem's instincts, Ada reached out and accepted the orb. As soon as she touched it, a vision filled her mind. She saw a clear path through the forest, leading to a wide river sparkling under the sun. The vision faded, and the creatures began to hum a melodic tune. Slowly, they flew away, leaving the family alone once more. "They've shown us the way," Ada said, her voice filled with wonder. "We must keep going." The family continued through the forest, following the path Ada had seen in the vision. But as they moved deeper, an unsettling feeling began to grow. The air grew colder, and the forest became eerily silent. Even the birds had stopped singing. "Something is following us," Ease said, his voice low. Ada glanced over her shoulder but saw nothing. "What do we do?" "Keep walking," Nkem said. "It won't attack unless we show fear." Summoning their courage, the family pressed on. The unseen presence seemed to draw closer with each step, and shadows flickered at the edges of their vision. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees, and a pair of glowing red eyes appeared in the darkness. Ease raised his staff, ready to defend his family. But before he could act, Nkem spoke in a calm but firm voice. "Leave us. We are under the protection of the river spirits." To Ada and Ease's astonishment, the creature hesitated. It let out a mournful howl before retreating into the shadows. The forest grew quiet again, and the family hurried onward, their hearts pounding. After what felt like hours, the dense forest finally opened up into a wide clearing. In the distance, they could see the glimmering waters of a vast river. Relief washed over Ada and Ease as they realized they were nearing their destination. "We're almost there," Ease said, his voice filled with hope. As they crossed the clearing, they noticed a group of people gathered by the riverbank. The strangers were dressed in flowing robes and seemed to be performing a ritual. Curious but cautious, the family approached. One of the figures, an elderly woman with long white hair, turned to them and smiled. "Welcome," she said. "We have been expecting you." Ada and Ease exchanged surprised glances. "You know us?" Ada asked. The woman nodded. "The river spirits told us of your journey. You have brought the child destined to bring balance to our world." Nkem's eyes glowed brighter as he looked at the woman. "What must I do?" he asked. The woman gestured to the river. "First, you must connect with the water. Only then will you understand your true purpose." With a mix of excitement and apprehension, Ada, Ease, and Nkem stepped toward the river, ready to face the next chapter of their journey. As you wait for part 2, like this video and subscribe, and also comment what you want as we prepare part 2 for you. Thanks you.